The universe had always looked down on humanity, weak, primitive, fragile. That's what the Galactic Council labeled them after Earth was discovered. Aliens passed by the blue planet, snickering at the so-called sentient apes who couldn't even escape their own gravity without risking their lives. The Council saw Earth as insignificant, not worth the effort to conquer or even acknowledge. That was until the Drak-Thar came. The Drak-Thar were ruthless conquerors, known across the galaxy as brutal warriors and cunning tacticians. Their fleet descended on Earth without warning, massive warships blotting out the sun, their engines rumbling like thunder. In a single day, major cities were reduced to smoking ruins. New York fell first, then Beijing, London, and Tokyo. It wasn't even a war, it was a slaughter. The Council watched from their luxurious stations, sipping exotic drinks and exchanging bored looks as they monitored the broadcasts. Earth's defenses were a joke. Primitive nukes, fighter jets, and soldiers armed with bullets. The Drak-Thar cut through them like they were nothing, leaving corpses and rubble in their wake. Aboard the flagship Blood Vengeance, Commander Krazul stood on the bridge, his crimson eyes fixed on the Earth below. A low growl rumbled in his throat as he addressed his second-in-command. "Pathetic," he sneered. "These humans are barely worth the effort. We shall take their resources and leave their world a burning husk." His lieutenant grunted in agreement, but there was something gnawing at him. "Commander, some of the troops report resistance, pockets of humans fighting back. Nothing significant, but persistent." Krazul waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Let them fight. Their defiance is amusing, but it changes nothing." He didn't know it yet, but that persistence would become the Drak-Thar's downfall. In the shattered remains of Chicago, Sergeant Alex Reyes crawled through the wreckage of what used to be a hospital. His leg was bleeding, his armor scorched, but his grip on his rifle never wavered. Around him, the few survivors of his unit huddled together, eyes haunted but determined. "They hit Atlanta too," Corporal Darnell said, his voice tight with grief. "Whole place is gone. No word from the East Coast either." Alex forced himself to stay calm. "They think they've already won. That's why they're not bothering to wipe us all out. They're underestimating us." Private Chen wiped blood from his face and gave a bitter laugh. "They have ships the size of skyscrapers, Sarge. What the hell are we supposed to do?" "We hit them where it hurts," Alex said, his voice steely. "They're used to fighting organized armies. They don't know how to deal with guerrilla warfare. We go underground, regroup, and strike when they least expect it." It wasn't just empty talk. Across the globe, human resistance started to take shape. Leaders, soldiers, engineers, and civilians formed networks, passing intelligence, coordinating strikes, and learning the weaknesses of the Drak-Thar war machines. One critical discovery changed everything. The Drak-Thar's energy shields were vulnerable to specific radio frequencies, destabilizing them for precious seconds. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Humanity began to strike back. In Mumbai, an improvised rocket launcher took down a patrol ship. In Berlin, underground fighters lured Drak-Thar soldiers into a trap, collapsing buildings on top of them. The message was clear. Earth wasn't conquered yet. Commander Krazul, unaware of the growing resistance, lounged in his quarters, confident in his victory. He didn't notice the silent transmission that hacked into the ship's systems, planting a virus that would soon turn their own navigation against them. Alex Reyes watched the explosion in the sky, the flagship suddenly veering off course and colliding with one of its own cruisers. The Drak-Thar on the ground panicked as their chain of command fell into chaos. Grim determination hardened Alex's gaze. "They struck first. Now it's our turn." The world burned, but from the ashes, humanity's spirit burned hotter. And this time, Earth wasn't going down without a fight. Commander Krazul's body slammed into the metal floor as the flagship shuddered violently. Sirens wailed, and the harsh red glow of emergency lights bathed the bridge in a bloody hue. He pulled himself to his feet, rage contorting his face. "What in the name of the Black Star just happened?" he roared. Lieutenant Varrock stumbled forward, gripping his bleeding shoulder. "Commander, the flagship's navigation systems have been compromised. We collided with the Iron Maw. Primary thrusters are offline." Krazul lashed out, claws raking across the console, sparks flying. "How? How did this happen?" Varrock hesitated. There was an unauthorized data stream from the planet's surface. Some kind of virus. It corrupted our flight path. Krazul snarled, his eyes blazing. "Humans! Those wretched vermin think they can fight back? Crush them! Deploy ground forces to every resistance hotspot and burn them to ash!" Varrock hesitated again, fear crawling into his voice. "Commander, our communications are disrupted. Some kind of electromagnetic interference from the surface. We can't coordinate our forces." Krazul smashed his fist into Varrock's jaw, sending him sprawling. "Then fix it. I will not be humiliated by insects." Meanwhile, far below in the wreckage of Chicago, Alex Reyes couldn't help the triumphant grin spreading across his face. The makeshift transmitter they'd set up in the basement of a bombed-out library had done the trick. Chen gave a shaky thumbs up from behind the console, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It worked," Chen panted. "The virus hit their mainframe. They're scrambling up there." Darnell leaned against the wall, keeping his rifle ready. "You really think this'll be enough to turn the tide?" Alex took a breath, staring up at the sky where debris from the collision rained down like meteors. "It's a start. We've rattled them. Now we just have to hit them hard while they're disoriented." He turned to the makeshift map they'd laid out on a cracked table. Red marks indicated known enemy outposts and patrol routes. Their scattered resistance groups were still mostly isolated, but this was their chance to unify and strike. "All right," Alex said, his voice firm. "We move on the communication hubs, take them out, and we isolate the ground forces from their command. If they can't coordinate, they're vulnerable." Chen hesitated. "Sarge, what if they retaliate with full force? We're already spread thin." Alex met his gaze, determination etched in his face. "They struck first. Now it's time they learn what humanity does when backed into a corner. We don't break, we get even." Across the world, similar pockets of resistance were catching wind of the flagship's collision. It was a symbol of hope, a sign that the Drakthar weren't invincible. Leaders rallied their troops, and guerrilla strikes intensified. In Paris, a small band of survivors sabotaged a refueling station, sending alien fuel tanks into a fiery blaze. In Cairo, resistance fighters ambushed an armored patrol, using scavenged explosives to rip through Drakthar armor. The council, safe in their distant stations, began to murmur among themselves. How had the humans managed to cripple the Drakthar flagship? Reports filtered in. Small, sporadic victories, but victories nonetheless. They couldn't ignore it anymore. Humanity wasn't going down as easily as they'd expected. On board the Blood Vengeance, systems flickered as engineers tried to restore order. Krazul stalked through the corridors, fury burning through his veins. Every second they remained vulnerable invited more chaos. As he entered the war room, a tech officer approached cautiously. "Commander, we've intercepted human communications. They're coordinating attacks across multiple locations, targeting our communication hubs." A vicious smile twisted Krazul's mouth. "Foolish apes, let them come. Send our elites to fortify the hubs. We will make them regret their insolence." But the commander's arrogance would cost him dearly. Humanity wasn't playing by the rules anymore. Guerrilla fighters didn't march in straight lines or attack in predictable waves. They came from the shadows, hit hard, and vanished before the Drakthar could regroup. In New Delhi, a squad of resistance fighters hijacked a Drakthar walker, rigging it with explosives and sending it straight into an enemy barracks. In Sydney, snipers picked off patrols from rooftops, while engineers hacked into alien drones to redirect them into each other. Alex received reports of successes from around the globe, his hope growing. He knew it wasn't enough to just hold their ground. They needed to cripple the Drakthar entirely. "Chen," he called, "can you track where their main power relays are? If we can knock out their energy supply, we might just force them to retreat." Chen squinted at the monitors. "Give me a few hours, Sarge. If I can triangulate their power signatures, I might be able to pinpoint the central node." Darnell slapped Alex on the shoulder. "You're thinking of blowing up their power grid? Bold move, man." Alex just grinned, a fierce light in his eyes. If they thought taking Earth would be easy, they're about to get a nasty surprise. He knew the cost would be high, and not everyone would make it out alive. But Earth wasn't about to roll over and die. Humanity had been underestimated one too many times. Now, it was time for payback. Chen worked tirelessly at the console, fingers flying over the keys as he sifted through intercepted signals and scanned energy readings. Alex paced behind him, his mind spinning with 100 thoughts at once. They needed to move fast. The Drakthar would eventually re-establish control, and their chance would be gone. Finally, Chen straightened, wiping the grime from his face with a trembling hand. "Got it, Sarge. The main power relay is in what used to be Colorado Springs. They've set up a massive generator field, drawing power from underground geothermal vents. If we take it out, their ground forces will lose energy shields and weapons systems." Darnell let out a low whistle. "That's a long way from here. How are we supposed to get past their air patrols?" Alex didn't hesitate. "We call in every resistance group between here and Colorado. Create enough chaos to keep the skies distracted while we move in." Darnell gave a wry grin. "A suicide run, then?" "If it means breaking their stranglehold, it's worth it," Alex replied grimly. The plan was simple, but brutal. Strike hard, strike fast, and don't stop moving. Alex sent out encrypted messages to nearby cells, rallying them to hit Drakthar outposts along their route. Distractions and diversions were key. As the team geared up, Chen hesitated, his gaze flicking between the map and the weapons they'd scavenged. "You really think this'll work?" Alex's expression softened for just a moment. "I don't know. But doing nothing isn't an option. We've got to make them bleed." A few hours later, the resistance convoy moved through the war-torn streets. Battered vehicles loaded with improvised weapons and grim-faced fighters. Smoke still choked the air, but morale was high. Word had spread about the flagship collision, and hope was rekindling. The first skirmish happened near St. Louis, where a Drakthar patrol ambushed them from the rooftops. Plasma shots lit up the night, burning through steel and concrete. Alex dove behind a burnt-out truck, barking orders through his radio. "Chen, find me a sniper position. Darnell, lay down suppressing fire." Darnell popped up from cover, unloading bursts from his rifle, while Chen scrambled up the remains of an old fire escape. Within seconds, the crack of his shots echoed, and 2 Drakthar fell from the rooftops, their heavy bodies thudding to the ground. "Clear!" Chen called down. They moved quickly, wasting no time celebrating. The convoy pressed on, weaving through broken highways and collapsed buildings. Resistance groups in Kansas and Nebraska launched hit-and-run attacks on nearby Drakthar camps, drawing attention away from the main team. By the time they hit the outskirts of Colorado Springs, dawn was just breaking, casting long shadows over the alien machinery that dominated the landscape. The geothermal relay stood like a metallic spider, its massive legs sunk deep into the earth, pulsating with an eerie blue glow. Guard patrols swarmed the area, alert and armed to the teeth. Alex scoped out the terrain from a ridge, sweat slicking his brow. That's it. We cut off the power there and we crippled their ground forces worldwide. Chen adjusted his binoculars. We've got about 36 hostiles on the perimeter, plus 2 armored walkers. We need a big enough bang to take the core offline. Darnell checked his gear. We've got the charges, but we'll need to get right up to the base of that thing. No way we're doing it quietly. Alex chewed his lip, formulating a plan. We hit them with a diversion, make them think we're attacking from the north. Once they shift, we slip in from the south and plant the charges. Darnell, you're on demolition. Chen, cover him. I'll coordinate the distraction. Setting up the diversion took every ounce of coordination they had left. Makeshift explosives rigged to abandoned cars and automated gun turrets crafted from scavenged parts gave the illusion of a full-scale assault. When the traps went off, alarms blared throughout the compound. Drakthar soldiers rushed north, converging on the explosions. Alex led Darnell and Chen through a side passage, ducking under pipelines and weaving between stacks of power cells. A lone Drakthar guard rounded a corner, but Chen silenced him with a single shot to the throat before he could raise an alarm. They crept closer, the hum of the power relay vibrating through the ground. Darnell knelt beside the core housing, planting charges with a precision that belied his rough exterior. Just a few more seconds, he muttered. The sound of approaching footsteps made Alex freeze. He motioned for Chen to cover him while he glanced around the corner. A patrol of 6 was moving back, alerted by the quiet. Hold your fire, Alex whispered. Darnell pressed the final charge into place and gave a thumbs up. Done. They ducked into cover just as the patrol rounded the corner, missing them by inches. Once the guards passed, Alex gave the signal to retreat. As they moved back toward the ridge, gunfire erupted to the north. Some of the resistance fighters had pushed closer, drawing the enemy's attention back. When they were at a safe distance, Alex nodded to Darnell. Do it! With a wicked grin, Darnell hit the detonator. The explosion was blinding. Blue energy arced wildly as the geothermal core went critical. The entire relay shuddered, then imploded, sending shockwaves through the ground. The Drakthar defenses flickered and died as power drained from their weapons and shield generators. Across the world, human fighters seized the opportunity. Alien walkers shut down mid-stride, plasma weapons powered off, and communication went dark. Guerrilla forces moved in, overwhelming the suddenly vulnerable invaders. On board the Blood Vengeance. Krazul's face twisted in horror as his tactical display lit up with red alerts. No, it can't be, he whispered. His arrogance had cost him. Humanity had struck back, harder and smarter than he'd ever imagined. Commander Krazul slammed his fist into the console, cracking the reinforced metal. His crimson eyes burned with fury, and his claws scraped harshly against the armrest of his command chair. The bridge was in chaos, reports flooding in from every battalion, all echoing the same devastating message. Power down, shields compromised, weapons offline, ground forces overrun. Varrock, nursing a broken arm from the earlier collision, approached cautiously. Commander, our planetary forces are in disarray. Without power relays, they're losing their primary defenses. Human resistance is overwhelming them. Krazul seized him by the throat, lifting the struggling lieutenant into the air. You incompetent worm! How could a species so primitive dismantle our systems? Varrock choked out a few words. They exploited our reliance on centralized power, guerrilla tactics, decentralized assaults. With a snarl, Krazul hurled him aside, sending him crashing into the bulkhead. The commander glared at the battle reports with pure hatred. How had it come to this? How had these weak, inferior creatures managed to cripple his forces. "We should have wiped them out from orbit," he muttered, fury boiling over. "Enough playing games. Initiate planetary bombardment protocols. Level their cities. No survivors." The bridge crew hesitated. A junior officer glanced up nervously. "Commander, our orbital cannons are still offline. Power conduits are damaged from the collision." Krazul's roar shook the entire bridge. "Then send reinforcements. Mobilize every last troop from the remaining ships. Crush them." But the Drakthar soldiers were in disarray on the ground. Deprived of their superior technology, they were vulnerable. Plasma rifles malfunctioned, armor shields flickered and died, and communication between units was all but severed. Humanity wasn't about to let the opportunity slip by. In Colorado Springs, as the dust settled from the massive explosion, Alex Reyes led his team back toward the convoy. His radio crackled to life, and he heard excited voices from resistance groups worldwide. "They're falling back. Drakthar forces surrendering in the streets. We've taken control of their barracks in Berlin." Alex shared a look with Darnell and Chen. Relief and triumph gleamed in their eyes, but Alex knew it wasn't over yet. The flagship was still intact, and as long as Krazul was alive, Earth remained in danger. He grabbed his radio. "All resistance units, this is Sergeant Reyes. We're making a push for the flagship. We take out their leader, and this invasion ends. Anyone who can move, regroup at the crash site in Chicago. We're taking the fight to them." Chen raised an eyebrow. "You're planning to board that monster?" Alex gave a grim nod. "We don't have a choice. We take out Krazul, or he'll keep sending waves of reinforcements. We can't hold out forever." Word spread like wildfire, and within hours, resistance forces from all over were converging on Chicago, where the blood vengeance remained grounded, struggling to repair itself. Makeshift artillery pounded its hull, keeping its defenses strained, while snipers picked off Drakthar soldiers who ventured too far from the ship. By the time Alex's convoy arrived, hundreds of fighters were already in position. He met with a few of the resistance leaders, grizzled veterans, former soldiers, and ordinary citizens turned warriors. "What's the plan?" asked Marta, a scarred leader from the Detroit cell. Alex mapped out the assault on the back of an old transport truck. "We hit them from 3 sides, force them to concentrate their fire, then our main squad breaches the hangar bay. We fight our way to the bridge and take down Krazul." Darnell cracked his knuckles. "Sounds suicidal. I like it." They moved into position, taking cover behind shattered buildings and piles of rubble. The signal flare shot into the sky, and the assault began. Resistance troops charged forward, pouring gunfire and explosives at the Drakthar troops guarding the entrance. Plasma shots returned fire, but the aliens were clearly struggling without their usual support. Alex led his squad through the chaos, weaving between cover and returning fire when needed. Darnell lobbed grenades into entrenched positions, blowing alien soldiers sky high. Chen picked off sharpshooters from the rear, keeping their path clear. As they neared the hangar, a monstrous Drakthar brute blocked the way, wielding a heavy plasma cannon. The creature roared, leveling its weapon at Alex's team. Before it could fire, a rocket slammed into its chest, detonating with a fiery burst. Marta emerged from a side alley, grinning wickedly. "Figured you could use a hand." Together they stormed the hangar, blasting through the few remaining guards. Inside, the ship's maintenance crew fled in terror as the humans seized control of the loading bay. Alex rallied his squad, pointing toward the central lift. "That elevator leads straight to the command deck," Chen noted, hacking the control panel. "But expect heavy resistance." Darnell snorted. Wouldn't be fun otherwise. They packed into the lift, nerves taut and weapons at the ready. As it ascended, Alex took a deep breath, focusing his mind on the mission. When the doors opened, they were met with a hail of plasma fire. Chen dropped instantly, a blast searing his shoulder. Alex and Darnell dragged him to cover, while Marta and the others returned fire. Across the bridge, Commander Krazul stood like a vengeful god, glaring down at them from his raised platform. His massive frame cast a shadow over his subordinates, and his voice was pure venom. "You insects dare challenge me on my own ship? I will grind your bones to dust." Alex raised his rifle, eyes locked on his enemy. "You struck first, Krazul, but humanity doesn't die easy. This is our home. You don't get to take it." The commander leapt down, claws gleaming, and the final battle began. Krazul landed with a thunderous crash, the deck plates shuddering beneath his immense weight. His eyes blazed with murderous intent as he drew a serrated blade from his hip, a weapon forged from dark alloys and etched with ancient Drakthar runes. Alex barely had time to shove Chen out of the way before Krazul lunged, slashing the blade in a brutal arc. Sparks flew as the blade sliced through a nearby console, sending shattered metal skittering across the deck. Darnell fired his rifle, the rounds pinging off Krazul's thick armor. Damn it, he's built like a tank! The commander spun with inhuman speed, backhanding Darnell and sending him sprawling. Marta let loose with her shotgun, aiming for the alien's exposed neck, but Krazul dodged and swept her legs out from under her. She hit the ground hard, gasping for air. Alex dropped to one knee, aiming his rifle at the creature's head. "Hey, over here!" Krazul snarled and charged. Alex squeezed the trigger, sending a burst of bullets into the alien's face, but the rounds barely grazed his armor. The commander swung his blade down, and Alex barely rolled aside, the weapon embedding itself in the metal floor. Chen, despite his injured shoulder, fired a well-placed shot that hit Krazul in the side of his head, cracking one of his breathing tubes. The commander snarled, grabbing the tube and yanking it free, spitting out thick, dark blood. "You think your pitiful resistance means anything?" Krazul growled, yanking his blade free. "I have conquered worlds beyond counting. You are nothing but insects beneath my heel." Alex rose to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth. "You're just another tyrant who underestimated humanity. We don't go down easy." Before Krazul could react, Darnell pulled a flashbang from his belt and tossed it at the commander's feet. The explosion of light and sound sent Krazul staggering, blinded and furious. "Now!" Alex shouted. He and Marta rushed in, firing point-blank into the alien's exposed neck and torso. Krazul roared, swinging his blade wildly, but his balance was off, and his vision hadn't cleared. Marta aimed for the cracked breathing tube and fired, blowing out the rest of it. Krazul choked, struggling to breathe, his movements sluggish and desperate. Darnell circled around, pulling a combat knife from his belt. With one smooth motion, he leapt onto Krazul's back, driving the blade into the seam between the armor plates on his spine. Krazul howled, thrashing and trying to reach back, but Darnell held on, twisting the knife deeper. Alex saw his chance and sprinted forward, grabbing a fallen alien rifle from the floor. He aimed it at Krazul's head, finger trembling on the trigger. "This is for everyone you killed, for every city you burned, for Earth." He pulled the trigger, and a bolt of searing energy punched through Krazul's skull, right between his glowing red eyes. The commander shuddered, his massive frame swaying for a moment before collapsing to the floor with a deafening thud. Silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the crackle of damaged electronics and the ragged breathing of the resistance fighters. Darnell slid off the alien's back, panting and wiping blood from his hands. Marta looked at the motionless corpse, then at Alex. "Is it over?" Alex nodded slowly, still catching his breath. "Yeah, it's over." Chen leaned against a console, wincing at his injury. "Holy shit, we actually did it." Before they could process the victory, the ship's alarm systems kicked in, and a robotic voice boomed over the speakers. "Warning, Command authority compromised. Automatic distress beacon activated. Galactic Council response imminent. Alex shot a wary look at Chen. What the hell does that mean? Chen hacked into a nearby console, grimacing. The ship sent out a distress signal. The rest of the Drakthar fleet and the Council are gonna know their commander's dead. They might send reinforcements. Darnell scoffed. Let them come. We took down their biggest bully. We can handle whatever's next. But Alex wasn't so sure. We need to seize control of this ship. If we can disable that distress signal, we might have time to regroup before they show up. He glanced down at Krazul's corpse, and then to his team, exhausted but resolute. We've come too far to lose now. Let's secure the bridge and get that signal down. Earth's still ours, and we're not letting anyone take it from us. With a renewed sense of purpose, they moved to the central console and began deciphering the alien systems. As they worked, resistance leaders from the surface reported that the remaining Drakthar soldiers were surrendering or fleeing into the wilderness. Victory chants echoed across the broken cities. Humanity had struck back and claimed their world. But even as they secured the ship, Alex knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. The galaxy now knew what humanity was capable of, and they wouldn't sit idly by. Earth would have to be ready for whatever came next. As Alex stared out at the horizon from the bridge window, he couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. The Drakthar had struck first, but humanity's revenge had been inevitable, and they weren't done fighting yet. In the weeks that followed the death of Commander Krazul, Earth slowly emerged from the shadow of invasion. Cities lay in ruins, countless lives had been lost, and the scars of war marked every corner of the globe. Yet amidst the devastation, a fierce and unbreakable spirit rose, one that refused to bow to alien tyranny. The remaining Drakthar forces, leaderless and scattered, either surrendered or fled into the wilderness. Some tried to regroup, but without their power relays and centralized command, they were easy targets for the organized resistance. Humanity reclaimed their cities piece by piece, dragging the invaders out of hiding and ensuring they wouldn't pose a threat ever again. The blood vengeance became a symbol of victory and defiance. Engineers and scientists from around the world flocked to the massive warship, studying its technology and unlocking secrets that could change the future of human civilization. Reverse engineering the ship's systems proved challenging, but humanity was stubborn, driven by both vengeance and survival. Alex Reyes stood on the bridge, overlooking the cityscape of Chicago through the flagship's massive viewport. The cleanup efforts were already underway. Smoke still rose from distant fires, but people were returning, rebuilding, and reclaiming their lives. He glanced at the alien consoles that Chen and a few tech specialists were working on, still trying to decipher the distress signal protocols. Darnell entered the bridge, wiping sweat from his face. South perimeter's clear. We rounded up a few stragglers hiding in the sewers. No major threats left. Alex nodded, relieved. Good. Keep patrols active just in case. I don't want any surprises. Chen approached, looking both triumphant and exhausted. We did it, Sarge. We managed to disable the distress beacon. No more signals going out. Alex let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Nice work, Chen. That'll buy us some time. Marta leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. Think the council's gonna come knocking? Alex looked out at the horizon, the sun just beginning to set. They will. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but they'll come. We just killed one of their most feared commanders and took his ship. They can't ignore that. Darnell smirked. Let them come. We know how to fight now. We know how to hit back. Chen hesitated, his gaze serious. Yeah, but we can't just stay on the defensive forever. If the Council sends an entire fleet, we're screwed. We barely survived one flagship. Alex nodded. That's why we're not just defending. We're preparing. We've got the ship, we've got their tech, and we've got our will to survive. If they want to bring the fight to us, we'll be ready. He looked at the remnants of Krazul's command armor, now stripped of its power and draped over a broken console, a symbol of the fallen tyrant and a reminder of humanity's victory. Over the following months, Earth transformed. Factories converted to build hybrid human-alien weapons, old alliances reforged, and nations that had once been rivals stood together, united by a common enemy. Skilled pilots and soldiers trained relentlessly, preparing to defend their world from whatever threat came next. The Council, shaken by the loss of Krazul and the unexpected resistance from humanity, deliberated cautiously. Some advocated for an all-out assault to crush Earth before it grew stronger. Others warned that such an action might spark a rebellion among other subjugated species, who would see humanity as a symbol of hope. For the first time in centuries, the mighty council was divided and uncertain. One day, as Alex surveyed the rebuilding efforts from the ship's bridge, a message crackled through the comm system. Chen adjusted the signal and widened his eyes. "It's a transmission from space," he said, barely able to contain his shock. "It's not Drakthar. It's from the council itself." Alex moved closer, his jaw set. "Put it through." The voice that filled the room was cold and measured, each word precise and weighted. "To the leaders of Earth, your defiance has been noted. Your resistance, though unexpected, will not go unanswered. Prepare yourselves. The Council does not forget, nor do we forgive rebellion. Surrender your world and submit to our authority, or face total annihilation." The transmission ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Darnell snorted, rolling his eyes. Typical alien bullshit. They still think we're scared of them. Alex smiled grimly. "They're coming. They're bringing their whole force. But we've got something they didn't expect, a reason to fight. We've bled for this world, and we're not about to let anyone take it from us." Marta glanced at the battle-scarred city below. "If they want a war, they're going to find out just how mean we can get." Chen smirked. "Humanity's revenge was inevitable, and they haven't seen anything yet." As the crew of the Blood Vengeance prepared for the battles yet to come, Alex couldn't help but feel a strange sense of pride. The universe had thought Earth was weak, fragile, and primitive. But they had learned the hard way that humans didn't just survive. They fought back. And now, with fire in their hearts and vengeance on their minds, they would take the fight to the stars if that's what it took. Earth was ready. Let the galaxy come. Let the galaxy.